From the air, lush and peaceful, the fertile farmlands of Dundaragan.
I've found that it's pretty honest and it gives you back according to what you give it. And I don't think you can ask better than that.
But on the ground, signs of discontent. Ian Minty has been farming this land for 40 years after emigrating from Scotland. Now he says he's fighting to save it for his children and grandchildren.
It's not a big proportion of the state that's arable and good farming land, and to consider putting that at risk just to get quick bucks, I just think it's totally ridiculous. This is where we are here. I'm over here.
The 77-year-old is part of a campaign to stop the tight gas industry before it gets a foot in the door. He's told the industry he doesn't want them on his land to carry out environmental surveys.
If the climate keeps drying as it has been, the only way we'll be able to grow any kind of crops, I think, is by irrigation. And if we foul the aquifers with these chemicals and the gas, then that option won't be open to us.
One of their main concerns is fracking, the technique used to release the tight gas from rocks about 2,500 metres below the surface. Their farms are in what's called a water for food area that's been set aside as a possible agriculture hotspot. Potato farmer Mick Fox says the two industries don't mix.
Why they would have a water for food and a fracking area together, there's very few people can explain it.
But down in the city, the company with the exploration permit over the land believes the two sectors can work side by side.
To the north here we have 2 retention licences.
Transerve Energy says that's already happening at its Warra gas project, 60 kilometres north of the Dundaragan permit.
Transerve's been operating in the Perth Basin now for nearly 10 years, up at the Warra gas field. And that's a tight gas field, so we've been obviously very excited about the potential of that particular field. It's quite complex, but it's very large. If successful, having the ability to supply Perth for about 30 years.
United we're as strong as a mountain.
One of their biggest hurdles, apart from the long process of proving up the resource, is winning the PR battle. A national protest led by the Lock the Gate Alliance has been making inroads across the region.
There's just a sea of misinformation about fracking, which has been promulgated by different groups who are opposed to fossil fuels.
Industry leaders say there's enormous potential for shale and tight gas in the region, which has been producing conventional gas for 50 years.
We do need to remember that the gas is the property of all West Australians.
The disputes become so polarised here that a parliamentary inquiry was set up to investigate the impact of fracking. After 2 years, it produced this report, which found that the risks can be managed with robust regulations. But it also recommended that an independent umpire be set up, a statutory body, to oversee land access disputes between farmers and oil and gas companies. The state government says it hasn't ruled out the option, but the chair of the inquiry, Simon O'Brien, says it needs to happen soon.
It's needed so that the Australian community is reassured that it's a level and a fair playing field for everybody. The relative resources of a large resource company compared with say a farm or other private landholder are not in balance, and so we need to make sure that fair play is done.
Ultimately, under the law, even if they own their land freehold, farmers in Western Australia can't deny access to oil and gas explorers.
It becomes more important that people can look to a trusted umpire to adjudicate on issues. And we are confident that with that sort of a process in place, we could win the confidence of farmers and landholders for exploration activities.
That's what Transerve Energy says it's still hopeful of doing in Dundaragan. It says any drilling in the area would be years away, and it won't go ahead without landowner support.
If you don't have a cooperative partner, a cooperative landowner, as an oil and gas company, it's not a relationship or an environment that works for either the company looking for the oil or gas, or clearly the farmer.
So are you saying if the farmers at Dundaragan don't want you to come on their land, then you won't?
Correct.
You won't pursue it?
Correct.
The company says it's received permission from 13 out of 20 landowners to access their properties, but opponents claim 95% of farmers in the area are opposed.
Because it's classed as an essential industry, they can more or less walk over us. And I think that's totally wrong and unfair. I just think we ought to have the right to veto anybody. If we don't want somebody on our land, we should be able to say no.
Ian Minty has been running his operations from a wheelchair after a farm accident 35 years ago. He doesn't give up easily.
All in all, I just think it's a bad thing and we shouldn't be doing it.
Claire Moody in Western Australia.